On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz comes an unprecedented exhibition about one of history's darkest moments. Auschwitz, not long ago, not far away, features more than 500 original objects, first-hand accounts, and survivor testimonies that tell the powerful story of the Auschwitz concentration camp, its history and legacy, and the underlying conditions that allowed the Holocaust to happen. On now exclusively at ROM. Tickets at rom.ca.
That's what it actually sounded like around 4 o'clock in the morning on Monday, June 16th, inside a Tel Aviv apartment's safe room, where Canadian Alana Ruben was hiding from incoming Iranian missiles. The Fredericton, New Brunswick woman was sheltering in a friend's building near the beach, along with 3 other women and 3 cats. Because of the missile barrages that started a week ago on Friday, that interrupted Ruben Free's weekend plans to visit family and friends, including some people who had come to Tel Aviv from Canada for the Pride weekend. When the alerts went off on Monday in the pre-dawn hours, Ruben was sleeping at a friend's apartment. She leapt out of bed and rushed into the apartment's safe room, along with her host and 2 other women guests. One of the women, who's a journalist, pulled out a phone and recorded what happened next. And later, they said the blast was the loudest thing they had ever heard. The window shattered. The handle for the window blew off and shot across the room. One of the women was thrown across the safe room. It would take rescuers a long time to cut down the apartment's front door and reach them and bring them all to safety. Here's what that sounded like as Israeli emergency crews escorted the group down the 6 flights of stairs to the lobby. That's where they would soon discover just how close they were to where an Iranian missile hit. It slammed into the parking lot right next to them, the only empty space in the densely packed neighborhood full of apartments and shops and a hotel. Now the very closest buildings, including theirs, are unlivable, facades blown off, some completely destroyed. But no one was killed.
And I will say that when the explosion went, I did have this sense, we are going to survive this. We're going to be okay. And I don't know how I actually knew that.
I'm Ellen Besner, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Friday, June 20th, 2025. Welcome to North Star, the flagship news podcast of the Canadian Jewish News, made possible by the generous support of the Ira Gluskin and Maxine Granovsky Gluskin Charitable Foundation. Alana Ruben officially made Aliyah to Israel 11 years ago, but she grew up in Fredericton and has been living on and off in Israel ever since her teenage years. She now lives and works as a playwright and performance artist in Jerusalem. One of her most famous sculptures is shaped like an egg, a tribute to motherhood, and sits in front of Jerusalem's Shaare Tzedek Hospital. Last year, she did a performance piece at the Bible Lands Museum about Queen Esther's throne and acted out the reimagined life of one of her heroines. After Monday's rescue from the missile, Ruben crashed on a few couches, got her bearings, and made her way back home to Jerusalem, where she's still processing what happened to her, and convinced that all her praying and reciting psalms in the shelter might explain why she, her friends, and the 3 cats all survived unscathed, except for one who cut her knee. Alana Ruben joins me now. Welcome to North Star. Where am I finding you?
I'm in my apartment in Jerusalem. I'm looking right at the Knesset, actually. I have a view of the Knesset, Israel Museum, and the new National Library.
We're talking to you because you escaped a near direct hit when you were in Tel Aviv. What were you doing there?
So my best friend lives in the center of Tel Aviv. I arrived on Thursday. I stayed with her Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sunday, I was supposed to come back to Jerusalem, but I ended up staying one more night, and that was when, I guess you could say, disaster struck, Sunday night.
You went to Tel Aviv not suspecting anything was going to happen except the usual Houthis every so often, right?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say I had a premonition that something was coming. There was talk of issues with Iran flights. My sister's daughter was supposed to come home from Toronto. We'd already heard that the flight might be canceled for Friday. So, no, I would say I went to Tel Aviv not knowing what would happen, but suspecting something might happen.
So how long have you lived in Israel? What do you do? Our listeners may not have followed your career through the pages of the CJN, so.
Okay, so in October 2013, I left Manhattan for Israel. My North Star was always Israel. From the time I was a child, it was like that little voice whispering, "Your home is in Israel." And so all I ever wanted was to live in Israel and learn Hebrew and learn more about Judaism. And it was my North Star all throughout my life. So I made every attempt against my, I would say, parents' wishes to move to Israel as soon as I possibly could. And I've been here ever since, like, just, loving every minute in a sense. Like, it's hard, it's difficult. Everyone who makes Aliyah, especially if you come without family, family here, it's lonely. You definitely have lonely periods, but you're like in the center of the action. You're in the middle of Jewish history as it's being made, like, especially right now. But I did it and I'm still here doing it. I'm doing it.
You wrote a real spiritual post after the missile hit very close to your house. I want to ask you about that. But before that, maybe we should just talk about the experience of being meters away from when one of the big missiles hit and did a lot of damage in the center of Tel Aviv. Were you sleeping? Where were you, in the shelter?
No, we definitely weren't sleeping. The Israeli government is unbelievable. The Homeland Security, however you want, there's a name for it, like Home Command. They have a system now where like 10 to 15 minutes before the missile reaches Israel, like they know when the missile leaves Iran, and it takes about 10 minutes to get here now. The way the rocket launchers work. So you get a message about 10 to 15 minutes before it enters where you're going to be, and it says, "Please be near your protected space." Don't like make your way now to your protected space, because not everyone has what we call a safe room, a mamad, in their apartment. Some people have to go down to a bomb shelter in their building or a community bomb shelter that may be 5 minutes away. Some people may have crutches or wheelchairs or children or elderly parents, and so it takes time to get to the bomb shelter. In our case, we're very lucky. My friend's apartment where we were staying was a relatively new apartment, and the mamad, the safe room, was the second bedroom. And when the message comes, you've got 10 to 15 minutes. Basically, then the siren comes, and when the siren comes, we all go into immediately. We have 90 seconds then. So once the siren comes, you have 90 seconds to get into your safe room and close the door. And it's very important that everything's shut. The window's shut, the door's shut, properly locked. Certainly on October 7th, we learned a lot about the importance of doors being locked. So we were four girls in the safe room. And then so it all happened very quickly, honestly, Ellen. Like we got into the safe room. So I would say within 1 minute, we heard one boom, a second boom, and then the blast. And the blast was very different than the boom. The boom was close. The two booms were close, but the blast really shook the building. And we were doing singing and prayers. We were singing Oseh Shalom Bimrabav. So we were singing that. We were saying the guardian of Israel neither sleeps nor slumbers. The guardian of Israel neither sleeps nor slumbers. Like we were just saying it over and over.
Like a mantra, yeah, get you through.
Exactly, like a mantra. And then my friend was also reciting other psalms out loud. But we stayed in the safe room, I'd say about 10 minutes, as we're instructed to do. You're instructed to stay in the safe room until Israel gives you the warning that you're free to leave the safe room. And because of, what we had just heard, we were all like feeling like, let's just stay put. And then we eventually opened the door to the safe room. And that's when we discovered, oh my goodness, like everything in the safe room was more or less intact, but nothing in the apartment was intact. The door was mangled, the front door. She had a very kind of expensive, thick door that was now pushed at a 30-degree angle. So there was no way you could get in or out, and it was blocked. And pretty soon after that, neighbors started knocking and saying, "Who's in there? Are you okay? Is everyone okay? Can we get you out?" And they tried, but it was clear they were not going to succeed at breaking down the door. They had to get search and rescue people to come from the army, from the IDF, with equipment to break down the front door. We all had suitcases packed before, like they instruct you to have a small bag with your important documents packed. And the IDF angels, I really can't call them soldiers, they're IDF angels, these young people in their early 20s who, carried our suitcases down the 6 flights as if they were valets. "How are you? Can we help you?" And the building was a wreck. There was dust, there was no windows, there was glass, there was water, there were pipes broken. And, they greet you with these warm smiles, like, "Everything's okay, don't worry." And there's such a sense of family and love, like, the amount of love that was there is what makes us such a resilient people.
So when that happened, could you stay in that apartment anymore, or no? What did you have to do?
Basically, the apartment, the building is completely uninhabitable. And it will be for many months. It will need a complete, I don't know if the whole building will have to come down or there'll be major renovations on every single unit in the building. But as soon as we got out, there were TV cameras there. ABC News immediately interviewed me. I saw my friend in a shot from CNN. There were cameras waiting for us, basically. And I mean, Ellen, you really can't imagine what that feeling's like when you're like, we are all family, we all love each other, we all care about each other. There is not a drop of looting happening. No one's even thinking of taking anything off a shelf without paying, even though it's all there. All the windows are blown out. You could easily, if you were a kleptomaniac, have a field day. But no, there was no looting, and everyone was just taking care of everyone, and everyone was in a state of awe. Everyone was in a state of awe. There was this feeling of, oh my God, we just experienced an open revealed miracle. And we had Magen David Adom there on site, but I didn't see any major injuries at all. I wasn't witness to any injuries. It's pretty remarkable.
So after you were taken to Magen David Adom and whatever, where did you end up sleeping that night and going?
In Israel, because the war has been now going on so long, we all have many WhatsApp groups. We have our friends' WhatsApp group, we have our synagogue WhatsApp group, we have our building WhatsApp group, we have our neighborhood WhatsApp group. So Marisa has a good friend who lived far enough away that her building wasn't affected, but close enough that it was 5-10 minute walk. So the people from the IDF actually carried our bags right to her friend's apartment. It was very cute. The city immediately offered hotel rooms to everyone affected. So you could, there are 2 particular hotels they recommend you go to and you register. So I was exhausted. I was like, I was really honest. I was like, "Marisa, I am so happy to be here as a loving, supportive presence, but like the amount of schlepping and packing I can do will be limited." But I did go up the 6 floors. There's no elevator at this point. So climbed up the 6 flights, helped her pack up some personal belongings, some food from the fridge, photos of her family, clothes. If there were other people there from the synagogue helping her pack up what seemed essential at that time to get out of the apartment. Fortunately, although there was a lot of structural damage, there really wasn't that much damage to her personal possessions. Like her clothes were in the cabinets. I can't speak to all the china, but there were things in the dishwasher that were more or less fine. But there was dust everywhere, like that explosion or explosive particles. Like there were explosive particles everywhere. And obviously the door was busted in on the floor, the front door. So I would say the main activity of the morning was getting suitcases filled with her belongings, getting them out of the apartment, getting them moved to another friend's home, getting the cats somewhere situated. And then by 4:30 in the afternoon, I had a taxi take me from Tel Aviv home to Jerusalem. I got home about 5:36 and I was exhausted. It was like I felt like I was leaving a war zone, which I was leaving a war zone. Like it was quite surreal, to be really honest. I mean, I've never seen that level of destruction and devastation in my life.
A friend of mine who lives close by said that he's never seen anything like it except in Beirut and in Gaza, and that's what it looks like. Does that make sense to you?
That's what I said. I didn't want to say it here, but I did say I feel like I'm leaving Gaza and going to Jerusalem. Like it looks like Gaza, like where there's everything's on the floor and it's just destruction.
And how surprising is that? You've lived through 20 months almost since October 7th, but then when it comes here to Tel Aviv, how do you put those together? I don't know if you can.
No, I mean, look, this stage of the war we're in, I would say, is the most intense, but also the most exhilarating. Meaning, I was in Tel Aviv on October 7th. My mother flew in on the last Air Canada flight that came in at 10 a.m. on October 7th. So I was in Tel Aviv waiting to meet her. We were in hotels. October 7th was a feeling of just complete shock, like, what the hell is going on? We were on the defensive. There was a lot of confusion, chaos. We didn't know what was going on. We're in a whole new place now. We are in a whole new place. We are in control. Israel is in control of the war now. Israel knows exactly what's going on. They prepared us since Thursday that we were going to have to experience retaliation from the Iranians. So we have been kind of in this place of, yes, ups and downs, but generally feeling we're starting to get closer to the taste of victory. So was it devastating? It was devastating. It's terrible to see it, but it's for a good cause. We're basically taking out Iran's nuclear capabilities. I think there was a real feeling of joy in the air, like they're trying to kill us and we're surviving.
So now you're in Jerusalem. How are you spending your hours?
Yeah, no, I would say I've been in exhaustion. Just, I got back to Jerusalem, say it was 6 o'clock already. I think by like 8 o'clock or 12 o'clock that night, there were sirens, air warnings of sirens. But yeah, so I go downstairs at midnight. I meet all my neighbors. A lot of in my building are a lot of families. So all the kids are on mattresses on the floor. Everyone's tired. Everyone is really tired. I brought a pillow and blanket with me. I was kind of sleeping on a chair. Nothing really happened. Come back to my apartment next morning, 8:30. There's another siren again. Go back down to my bomb shelter. Yes, I went to yoga at 5:30 was the class, but at 5:20 was again another warning to be by a bomb shelter. So like just before the yoga class, we were all kind of at the bomb shelter by the yoga class. We're not really supposed to have yoga classes, but you can have gatherings, I think, of under 10 people.
On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz comes an unprecedented exhibition about one of history's darkest moments. Auschwitz, not long ago, not far away, features more than 500 original objects, first-hand accounts, and survivor testimonies that tell the powerful story of the Auschwitz concentration camp, its history and legacy, and the underlying conditions that allowed the Holocaust to happen. On now exclusively at ROM. Tickets at rom.ca.
Are you able to go to shul, or how is that working out?
So that's another interesting question. So when we were in Tel Aviv, the rabbinate was very serious last Shabbat. No one should go to synagogue at all. However, there was a minyan 2 levels down in the parking garage at the Dizengoff Center. And my friend lives close enough to the Dizengoff Center that we were able to go to that minyan 2 floors down in the garage. And it was pretty disgusting. I will tell you, like, you could barely breathe in the garage. But nonetheless, there was an ofra for a guy who was getting married that week, who knows now exactly what happened with the wedding. But it was a very small minyan. I was kind of sad that there were only like maybe 30 people there, but it was a big kiddush. There was a lot of food for few people. It was a nice vibe. There was a Torah, we had Torah reading. But I guess on one hand, I could be happy that everyone followed the instructions of the rabbinut and the instructions of the government and didn't go to the minyan. But on the other hand, when you're living in a Jewish state and you can't get together in, a big service, especially in a time of war, it feels a little sad, like that we're under that kind of threat. So it was almost like a premonition on Saturday of what was to come on Sunday night. That was the first time I went to a minyan in a parking garage. But, I kind of realized, like, whoa, we're really in a war situation and no one really had time to prepare much.
Is your family all out now, and everybody's back where they need to be, and now you just sort of right? Like, tell me what you're doing, if you can say.
It's interesting. Like, first of all, tonight on the Jewish calendar is a very auspicious night. It's an auspicious night. It's the 23rd of Sivan, which is in the Megillat Esther, which is all about Persia, is the night that the king granted Mordecai and Esther the opportunity to ask for whatever they want to defend the Jewish people. So it does feel that, they're talking about this Thursday, which is starting now in Israel, because we're Wednesday night, tomorrow's Thursday, is going to be an auspicious time for Israel and the war. And we are doing a lot of praying, which is kind of exciting. And even President Trump has mentioned that this Thursday will be an eventful day. So we'll see what's coming. And yeah, it's kind of like being in a dream state. You can't plan that far in ahead. You kind of have to take care of yourself. I live alone. I'm a writer, artist, so I make my own schedule. I'm a life coach. I have clients. I still work with my clients on Zoom. But it's really in a wait and see mode. It's hard to make a lot of plans. I mean, I love the Dead Sea. I'd love to go down the Dead Sea and just, recover there a bit from the attack. But it's not so safe to get in a car and drive for, an hour and a half. But yeah, people are just taking it one day at a time. It's very much like that. No one knows what's actually going to happen. But I will say everything is going better than anyone expected so far. And I pray that it continues that way. Yeah, I just was gonna say my last piece that was at the Jerusalem Biennale, like, in 2024 was on Queen Esther, and we had, artifacts on display from the palace of Shushan, the palace of Susa. And so I personally am very connected to the history of Persia, and it's interesting when your sort of academic interest overlaps with current events in a way you never expected when you started this in 2016. I started writing about Esther and Mordecai and teaching on them in 2016, so it's kind of interesting.
My brain is exploding just trying to hold those two things together. I don't know how you deal with it, but
It all integrates here. The exhibit was at the Bible Lands Museum, which was founded by a Toronto family. You probably know that. It's all 1 degree of separation.
stay safe. We will think about you. Let's stay in touch. Thank you for reaching out to us, and for that you haven't had to run anywhere in the last half an hour. So that's been a win.
Yeah, no, we're gonna be all dancing a victory dance very soon.
I hope so. Listen, thanks so much for being with us at the CJN's North Star.
Bye.
And that's what Jewish Canada sounds like for this episode of North Star, a Canadian Jewish news podcast, made possible thanks to the generous support of the Ira Gluskin and Maxine Granovsky Gluskin Charitable Foundation. The Canadian government's now offering to provide rescue flights for Canadians who want to get out of the Middle East. The government says anyone who can get out of Israel by crossing into Jordan will be met by consular officials on the other side and helped to fly home from there. Our show is produced by Zachary Judah Kaufman and Andrea Varsany. The executive producer is Michael Freeman, and our music is by Brett Higgins. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel to see the interview with Alana Ruben free. Thanks for listening.
On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz comes an unprecedented exhibition about one of history's darkest moments. Auschwitz, not long ago, not far away, features more than 500 original objects, first-hand accounts, and survivor testimonies that tell the powerful story of the Auschwitz concentration camp, its history and legacy, and the underlying conditions that allowed the Holocaust to happen. On now exclusively at ROM. Tickets at rom.ca.